Good evening. Good evening. We are back live, Poppin' Politics, again every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe and comment on this video. We will respond to the comments and check the comments throughout the evening. Also, like the video and subscribe. That will give you access to when we post and when we upload videos. If you're watching on Facebook, do the same. Share this video, like the video, and comment. Again, we are responding to your comments tonight. We have a ton of topics to talk about, so your comments will be greatly appreciated and you'll join the conversation. All right, so we are starting off as we generally do with our Declare It a Crisis Baltimore segment. So this is a segment where we spotlight the crime that is going on in Baltimore City. Many of us are Baltimoreans, and we want our leadership to take note of what is going on and what is important and do something about it. Today, sadly, I am talking about the passing of Emmanuel Holly, 18 years old. He died on May 17th. He was shot. He was actually shot on April 18th, and he passed away on May 17th, only 18 years old. So if you are, please share this on your social media. Hashtag Declare It a Crisis Baltimore. Again, we are raising awareness to our leadership in Baltimore City about the chronic violence. This is the pandemic, and we want to raise awareness about it. All right, so we are jumping right into topics today. What do you have for us, Yana?
Well, we just had the Juneteenth holiday.
Yes.
And I saw that there was a jubilee.
Oh, yes.
And you looked really beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
loved the dress.
Thank you.
Everybody looked amazing. It seemed like such a great event.
It was a really fun time.
And personally, I think it's a very important holiday, and it's something that I want to point out that the freedom that it signifies is something that was brought on by Republicans. Mm-hmm. So, I hope everybody knows that Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, mm-hmm. and he had his Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863. Mm-hmm. And then 2 years later, it was a Union General, also a Republican, obviously, Gordon Granger. He delivered the news to Texas on June 19th, 1865, mm-hmm. that all the slaves must be free. So when I was looking into that, of course, the thought comes on how many people suffered and died in those 2 years when they should have already were supposed to be free. And then, so that's why it's an important holiday, and that's why it was made a national holiday. That's how I see it. But then it was surprising to me that 14 House Republicans voted against making it a national holiday. Mm-hmm. And so that was interesting. But then I saw that it's because the name is actually Juneteenth National Independence Day.
Okay.
And they were suggesting that maybe it should be called Emancipation Day or Freedom Day. Mm-hmm. So those were their suggestions. So they basically voted against it, not because they were against the holiday itself, but the name that it was given.
I see.
And so it does make sense to me, and why they voted against it, but I wonder if it can be used later against these people, saying that, well, you voted against it because you're racist. Mm-hmm. You're pro-slavery. Mm-hmm. Something crazy like that, like the left might say. Mm-hmm. So was it really wise of them to do that? So that's my question.
Okay.
What do people think about that?
Yeah. What do you say, Natasha?
Well, I think we dealt with a different administration before the Biden administration. So President Trump actually promised to make Juneteenth a holiday before his re-election. And as we know, President Trump promised to increase capital in the Black communities, create more jobs for the Black community, and support Black-owned businesses. The Biden administration kind of shifted a little bit. So I think a lot of those House Republicans are like, I support what President Trump put into place for Juneteenth, but what the Biden administration is doing is they're making it about race, like they've been doing before he ran and now that he's president of the United States.
Yeah.
And for the audience who are looking and saying, who is Natasha? I forgot to introduce Natasha. She is sitting in for Shelly, who is away today, and we're also missing T. I had a family emergency, is not able to attend. So welcome.
Thank you again. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and Natasha's been on here before, so it's not like she's a stranger. So that was a very good response to that. And now my question would be though, was there a difference in this bill versus the one, do you guys know, that Trump was pushing, because in his platinum plan, as far as, because when you say these Republicans may not have voted for it because of course the Biden administration was pushing race.
Yeah, because this one proclaimed and enforced freedom of enslaved people in Texas. And as we know, I know we're going into critical race theory coming up soon. Again, there's a little bit of a divide between the Biden administration and the Trump administration, especially when it comes with, helping the Black community out.
The intentions behind it.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
And Xandria, one thing I wanted to ask is, again, as you guys have mentioned, President Trump had this in his platinum plan, along with prosecuting Ku Klux Klan as domestic terrorists.
Correct.
So now that these, 14 Republicans voted against it, are they being hypocrites?
So my view is, I don't think the name itself, we can get over that, right? In the grand scheme of things, I don't think the name is that important. I think it's a great thing that it's a new federal holiday. My concern is, the fact that we are, why is it becoming a federal holiday? I do feel like the Biden administration is utilizing it as propaganda, right? There were genuine intentions behind it when Trump initiated it, and I feel like now this is just adding to, for instance, with the name specifically. When I hear, Juneteenth, National Independence Day, the reason why I think they're adding the National Independence Day is because there would be individuals, and for instance, people with BLM, that would say, oh, the Independence Day, meaning 4th of July, is not my Independence Day. You know what I mean? So I feel like that component of it is for pandering. Most people just refer to it as Juneteenth, right? They don't say, hey, I'm celebrating Juneteenth, the National Independence Day. It's just Juneteenth. They could have just passed it as Juneteenth, and it would have been significant. So my question for the Biden administration is, okay, you passed this holiday, now what are you gonna do to actually help Blacks in the United States? Because if you go to the inner cities, I don't think they're losing sleep at night over whether Juneteenth is a federal holiday or not. They're losing sleep over whether their trash is picked up, whether crime is going down. Right. So I think that's the thing. I think the Republicans who voted against it, I understand the naming convention, but I don't think it was that significant. I do think it will be used against them later. The left is gonna try to twist it, right?
Exactly.
So why give them ammunition?
Exactly.
And
That's my view.
let me ask you this then, because we have seen in the headlines last week, Candace Owens, who's been in the headlines all this week, made some pretty harsh statements about it. So she put in an op-ed on the Daily Wire, and she also came out on her social media, and she says basically the holiday is stupid and the holiday is lame. So what do you guys think about those comments? Now, she did not differentiate between making it an actual holiday or if the whole thing is just stupid and lame.
Just the whole thing, the way she said it was.
Those are her exact words. She was like, the title of it was Juneteenth is lame, and then in her comments she said Juneteenth is stupid.
Yeah.
It's stupid, is what she said.
I just think that it's unfortunate that we have so much division right now in the Republican Party and in the conservative movement. We should be more together because we've been bringing it up on our show because the left is more united than we are. And I mean, it's understandable because we do have
Free thinking.
Free thinking, yes, like intellectual diversity.
thought.
So, on one hand, I want to say, a person can have their opinion about Juneteenth if that's her opinion. Candace Owens,
Of course,
the
yeah.
way, that's her. I mean, she is inflammatory. Like she will say what she thinks. But then we have these people in the House, and they might be accused of racism. And is it really helping our movement and us being, fighting the left? We should maybe put our, small disagreements aside and maybe not be so vocal about it all the time, in order to kind of, and we could have pushed the whole idea that this is a Republican holiday.
Yeah, that's
like,
true. That's true.
Right, that's where I think the big opportunity
Yeah.
is missed. Like when you have certain conservatives that are voting against it, like that's the biggest part, because I feel like the media doesn't show the unity. They don't show that the Conservative Party is an inclusive party. People won't know that the reason the media is not going to spread, hey, they voted against us because of the name, because of what the definition that they're trying to affiliate with this. They're going to say, oh, they're pushing this because they're anti-black. That's going to be the narrative. I think with Candace, I think she has the right to feel the way she feels about that. And I don't think it's so much that she's against Juneteenth itself. I think it's that she is very, and I agree with her, she's very anti-victimization mentality. And I think she looks at this holiday as they're pandering to us.
Right.
And I'm not a victim. I don't need you to tell me I'm a victim. I don't need you to put a holiday in my face for me to feel special, And I think that's her approach. I don't think that's the way it was like articulated the most clearly.
And I was going to ask you on your thoughts, because again, we have to understand Juneteenth has been around for decades. I mean, it's just become national because of the press, but they've celebrated this in southern and Texas states for a long time. So, and again, she did not make a differentiation between whether it was the actual holiday or the actual making it a national holiday. But Natasha, your thoughts on her comments? It's stupid, it's lame.
Well, I think,
And if I could, I'm sorry. With her movement, the Blexit movement, so bringing over Black independence or Black people to the Republican Party, how does that translate? Does it translate well? For calling Juneteenth stupid and lame.
well, as you said, Candace Owens, she has marveled in, starting this Blexit movement, getting the Black community to switch over from Democrats to Republicans. She's been very successful in that. And I agree with what Xandria said, is she's against the victimization of Black people. She says, she totes this all the time. The Democrats say that Black people are stupid. Black people, they need to live off the system. And she, came out in basically support of Black people and saying, look, just because you're Black, you don't have to keep voting for the same, president or the same party every single time. And I think that, and she's been very successful with that. And I think what she was saying is that, President Trump was the guy that wanted Juneteenth. He wanted it as a federal holiday, and Biden's kind of taking credit for something that President Trump kind of put forward, like Biden did with the vaccines.
Right.
Also, I don't think Candace Owens wants to deflect or hurt Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which is a federal holiday. Alveda King, who's the niece of Martin Luther King Jr., she's a Fox News contributor. She always talks about the wonderful things that her late uncle did and how he brought everybody together. And I think she agrees that Juneteenth is supposed to bring it together, but again, the way that the Biden administration approaches it, it doesn't bring the country together.
Right.
And I think that's where she's coming from.
I was going to say, I think one of the things with her is that she's very much like, hey, we are American. Like, Independence Day is Americans' independence. The country would not exist had this not happened, right? And I think, that is her intention. I don't think it always clearly comes off that way.
Yeah.
And maybe that's something for her to work on. But I do think that the intention is, hey, let's celebrate holidays that are for all Americans, all together. And I do think that is for all America, but you get what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah, and I just want
You can have the last word.
So I agree. I understand why she might say that. Is that this whole that we need to be Americans. We should not be dividing ourselves too much by race. However, this was a opportunity for us to have a healing moment, like a bipartisan healing moment, to say, well, this was the final, the end of the Civil War, where these people finally were able to be free together with the rest of America. And so, as Republicans, we could have taken that opportunity and made it as its holiday that was brought on by Americans, and to kind of educate the rest of the country. They may not be aware of that even. Because history is not something that's
right, that's true.
strong on some people.
That's you're right, and that's what we did at our event,
Yes.
which was was brought on by the Frederick Douglass Institute, and which is a nonpartisan institute, but it was more of a celebration of being American. Of the Republicans are the ones who initiated along with the Union Army. So that's the kind of take we took on it. I want to hit the comments for just a moment. Let's see what we have here. So I will start on YouTube. Let's see. All right. Okay, so do we have any comments on, why, why didn't they try to amend it if that was the issue? Okay, so Sam says, why didn't they try to amend it if that was, so I want to see, what does he mean by?
Like, I think he means the name.
Why didn't they try? Oh, that's a good question.
They did. I mean, I don't know all the negotiations that took place, right? I wasn't like watching minute by minute, but I would suspect that
didn't come across in the news, so I don't know, but that's a good question.
And of course it wouldn't. Like most of the bills that are put forth by Democrats, there's always like there's always other stuff.
They throw something
right?
in there.
There's always like a what's the word? Non-compromise.
Non-relevant.
Right, thing. So I don't know, that might have been, that I would suspect that that's something. I can't speak for sure, but I would suspect that
I'm not
was
sure on
something.
that. It's a good question though, Sam.
Yeah.
So, and we have another one from Evie. I'm Republican who happens to be blue, is it?
Black.
Black. Oh. and
I
don't support
it as
it
a national
as
holiday either.
Okay.
It serves its purpose as a cultural, I think it serves its purpose as a cultural holiday similar to Jewish cultural or minority holidays.
Okay, and so that's a Republican and she's African American. I wonder if she goes against Trump, because Trump had this as a national holiday in his platinum plan. So
yeah, and I wonder if Candace Owens, if she would have had the same response if it was Trump's initiative.
Yeah, that's a good question. See here, Taria White says it was I can't read it. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It was an appeasement. Black people shouldn't get used to distractions and crumbs that they receive from the Democrats.
Okay. All right.
So I think that is more of like Candace's approach on this particular issue.
Right.
I do think it is cause for celebration. I just think that everything that comes from the left, there's always an agenda behind it.
I agree.
And I think that's like really what people are.
And I wonder like how it's going to be taught later, like the way how it's going to be presented in schools. How it's going to be something that's going to be presented as fine. It will be turned into a racial issue rather than a unity issue.
Well, what's interesting is that Joe Biden, he created this federal holiday, but he didn't bring up Normandy. He didn't bring up D-Day, which is historic.
Well, we know why. It's all an agenda. So it's a shame, but we will continue to monitor and follow this next year also and see what happens. It's interesting enough. I was a history minor, and I kept all of my old history books, and I checked my history book for this holiday, and it wasn't in it. It was an African American history book. So, that just tells you sign of the times. This was not even in the history book. So,
look, with how history is taught nowadays, I don't even know what to believe anymore.
So. All right, so we are going to go now. Again, if you're watching on social media, please comment. We love the comments. Keep them coming. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe so you get notifications of when we post content. Same on Facebook. Please share this video and continue to comment. We love the comments. Keep them coming. You are like the 5th host tonight. All right, so we're going to continue on with our new segment, pop-off. All right, it's the pop-off. Time for questions, sort of like a speed round kind of questions and answer segment where I will give questions to each co-host. They have no idea what these questions are going to be, and it's time for them to pop off and give their response and perspective on the questions. So tonight, you getting your cherry pop tonight, Natasha.
Oh my gosh.
We are starting out with you. All right. So let's see here. All right, so let's hear you pop off. President Trump scheduled to go to the border on June 30th. Kamala Harris, who President Biden tasked to lead diplomatic efforts to stem the flow of migrants arriving on the southern border, has yet to go. Now, all of a sudden, of course, she's announced a trip that is scheduled on Friday, seemingly after President Trump said he was going on June 30th. So my question to you, Natasha, is why now, and what's the significance of her going to the border?
So the reason she's going now is she got significant pressure from the DHS, from the Border Patrol agents, from the ICE agents. There has been a massive crisis on the border. It's a big difference between what the Trump administration put in place and what the Biden administration has put in place. There's been thousands upon thousands of illegal immigrants coming into the border, crossing over to Texas. They're in Donna, Texas at that facility, and they're all coming in with COVID, and it's just a total mess. And the fact that Governor Greg Abbott, who's the governor of Texas, had to summon President Trump to come down there because it is such a mess. It looks bad on her, and it looks bad on the Biden administration. So she's really just going there to kind of save face, and of course she's going to do it before President Trump arrives. But I'll be honest, the people there are going to boo her. They're going to be very upset. They're going to be like, where were you? Look what you've done. What are you going to do? And if she's going to be like an AOC and say that the detention centers like concentration camps, I mean, we can't go backwards to that. It's going to be very bad. So, and the American people will see the difference between the welcome that Kamala Harris is going to get and the welcome that President Trump is going to get. I've been down to the border. I was down there in December. The Border Patrol and the ICE agents were so happy with the plans that President Trump put into place that they basically were just sitting back there and cruising. They didn't have to worry about somebody crossing over the border for fear that they're going to get attacked. But with Biden, the Border Patrol agents, they have to be in fear every single day of their lives that they're going to be attacked. And the drug cartels are telling these people, if you come across the border legally, we'll give you $5,000 to do this. And of course, the child trafficking, the human trafficking, the sex trafficking is up by minors coming, or unaccompanied minors coming over here and crossing the border illegally.
All right.
Well, maybe she'll go to Europe after that.
Right.
Yeah, really.
Some
Right.
Latinos, we call her Kemala. You know, how bad. Kemala.
Oh, wait, I don't get it.
Like
In Spanish, it means
like
how,
Kamala.
like Kamala.
Oh, camel.
Kemala in
How
Spanish
bad.
means how bad.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, Mala.
Yeah,
Oh.
Yeah, they were not happy when she was down in Guatemala City. They were
Yeah.
not. They booed her.
Oh my
heavily.
God.
Yeah.
That's a good one, right?
Yeah.
Pretty clever.
All right. Okay. I thought you were saying she means camel.
No.
Oh. Wow.
That's
Yeah.
so weird.
Okay. All right. We're gonna continue with the pop off, going to Yana.
Okay.
All right. So today, a Trump supporter who spent 10 minutes inside the U.S. Capitol during the January 6th Capitol riots was sentenced to probation today, avoiding jail, becoming the first rioter to learn of their punishment in the riot investigation. In referring to GOP lawmakers, the judge who did the sentence, Judge Lamberth, said videos from the attack would show the attempt of some congressmen to rewrite history, that these were tourists walking through the Capitol is utter nonsense. So he's basically talking about the GOP congressman. What are your thoughts on the sentencing and the judge's comments on what happened that day as a serious crime and a disgrace?
So what was he sentenced?
It was actually the person who was sentenced today. I think he or she, I think it was a woman actually, was just, she walked in. I think they took a photo or something.
Oh, okay.
Nothing was, she didn't steal anything or anything like that. And she got sentenced with, I think, a fine and probation.
Okay. Well, I mean, it seems like most of these people, that's what they did.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, majority, and I was surprised to see that there's actually like 500 people that were arrested and put to jail over this. Like, I didn't see that there were 500 people inside the Capitol. Like that, I don't think there were. And so it seems like most of their charges are probably, you know, trespassing or being on federal property when they were not allowed because they had the fence, like the little fence around. But the thing is that fence, it was like a plastic fence. And by the time most people got there, that fence was not even visible because it was trampled. So I can imagine that most people probably just walked, you know, on the lawn, and maybe they got, you know, too close to the Capitol. And, you know, in her case also, I mean, she walked in. We also know that they were cops there letting people in.
Right.
And in fact, I've spoken with people who have got inside, and they said, yeah, they opened the doors for us.
Okay.
I mean, they were so surprised. They were like, yeah, we were there, and like we didn't know what was going to happen, and then they just opened the doors, and so we walked in, and then we walked out. And so, I don't know. It's strange. I mean, of course, legally, I can see that her charge might be justified because yes, she trespassed, but then what else happened? Like, you know, why was she let in there?
Right. So all of the hoopla and things that they're talking about this as an incident, which it was a serious incident, but the way they're making it, we haven't seen that
and
yet. So.
Right after January 6th, they were calling people terrorists.
Right.
And like, come on now.
Right. Okay. All right. And lastly, we will pop off. We have Xandria. So the question to you is, Dave Chappelle says he'll never apologize for calling Candace Owens an articulate idiot on his Netflix comedy special last year. He also said, that rotten bee, she's the worst. I can't think of a worse way to make money. She's the most articulate idiot I've ever seen in my effing life. This week, he referenced this information. So my question to you is, should comedy be excused from political correctness, or was this wrong of him to say? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah,
Did he go too far?
I mean, comedy can get crude, right? I think comedy should not be, should not have to abide by political correctness.
Censored.
Yeah, it should not be censored. It shouldn't abide by political correctness. I'm pretty sure that Candace even spoke about Dave Chappelle in the past. I don't know about this particular time, but in the past, like, she said, hey, he can critique me, he can joke about me, like, that is his platform. So I always think comedy, I think that when we start to censor comedy and cancel comedy, we lose it. What's the point? Like, it's supposed to be a safe, we've learned that there's no such thing as a safe space. But it is, I think comedy is supposed to be a safe space. And there are going to be crude jokes, and there are going to be inappropriate jokes, like with anything else. People just have to have thick skin. I think Candace has pretty thick skin. I don't think she cares.
I don't think it was funny. I mean, if it's funny, it's funny. But in this case, it just wasn't funny.
I didn't see the particular act of his, but
it's a Netflix.
Yeah, there's a lot of comedians that aren't funny, frankly, and that go too far. I do think there are comedians that go too far, but I think that comedy should be a space that is not censored.
So a real safe space.
I don't know. It's not really safe. Like, look, some of my favorite comedians.
Freedom of speech.
Some of my favorite comedians, honestly, like, for example, Andrew Schultz, if you guys have seen him, he's somebody that if you sit in the front row, it does not matter who you are, what you look like, your background, he is coming after you. And it just, like, nonstop. And that's some of the best comedy. And people that go to those shows go for that reason. They know he's going to do it. So, you know, I think that people have to have a balance and just have some thicker skin.
And that's a funny guy.
He is really funny. I highly recommend.
All right. So we will move right along. Again, that was our segment called The Pop-Off, where we just throw random questions at our co-hosts and have them pop off on the topics. All right, so moving right along. Again, if you're watching on social media, please continue to comment on YouTube, like and subscribe to this so you can get our content when we upload it. If you're watching on Facebook, share this video and like the page. All right, so we will move on to Xandria. Yes, the school system.
All good. All right, so some of you guys may have heard of Yana Park before. If you haven't, I highly recommend check out her YouTube page, research her, check out her TED Talks. Her story is really, really amazing. So she is, just to summarize really quickly who she is, she is a 27-year-old human rights activist who escaped from North Korea at the age of 13 with her mother. Her story about how she escaped is really, like, it's crazy and it's sad, but it's amazing. And now she's a U.S. citizen. So in 2016, she was at a Southern Korean university, and then she transitioned over to the U.S. and went to Columbia University, which is an Ivy League school in New York. And when she came here, she was shocked by how much the teachings and the schooling and the academic curriculum at Columbia University represented and resembled the Kim regime of North Korea.
Wow.
Right? Like, that is very, very telling. And I took a few of her quotes. So she said, "I expected that I was paying this fortune, all this time and energy to learn how to think. But they're forcing you to think the way that they want you to think." And she told that to Fox News. And she was like, "I realized that's insane. I thought America was different, but I saw so many similarities to what I saw in North Korea, and I started worrying." Like, I think that is very eye-opening, that is the level of groupthink and lack of critical thinking and political correctness is that she's seen it so comparably to North Korea. So my question for you guys is what can we do? You know, I don't feel like conservatives are involved enough in the education system. I think that there's also kind of maybe this movement that's going on right now of like, hey, we need to move everybody towards homeschooling. And I have nothing against homeschooling, but my concern is, okay, if we move everybody that thinks for themselves into homeschooling, then like how radicalized is the school system gonna get? You know?
That's a good question.
And yeah.
So what do you think, Yana?
Well, yeah, I watched that lady's interview, and it is really alarming. And she's just one of the people that's talking about it, but it's happening in every university. And it seems like we have two segments in America. So we have the general population, and then we have the colleges. And I think that the Marxist ideology really infiltrated pretty much all of the universities except for the conservative ones. And it is really scary, because that's what the Marxists have been doing kind of quietly throughout decades. You know, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the communists didn't go away, so they just infiltrated the institutions like the school system and the colleges and in general. And I would never even say this is a liberal propaganda. It's not liberal. There's nothing liberal about what's going on in these colleges anymore. It's more as it's indoctrination. It's they are suppressing people's beliefs. The way how she compared it to North Korea is that she realized she can't say certain things in her classes. Like, she has to stay quiet. And then we're also hearing about young children in middle school, high schools, that they cannot say certain things.
And so what do you think as far as homeschooling?
So I think in my view that people should be taking responsibility of their education and education of their children and removing people from these institutions.
Okay.
And actually, there's information I looked up that the home educated typically score 15 to 30% percentile points above public school students. And in 2015 study found that black homeschool students were scoring 23 to 42 percentile points above black public school students.
Wow.
Then 78% of peer-reviewed studies on academic achievement show homeschool students perform statistically significantly better than those in institutional schools. So everything is pointing out that homeschooling generally is better. Of course, it has to be quality homeschooling.
Right.
People have to take real responsibility. It also says adults who were home educated are more politically tolerant than the public schooled.
Okay.
What's interesting, and this was, let's see, this was on, let's see, National Home Education Research Institute.
And what do you say about that, Natasha?
Um,
Homeschooling or
Yeah,
state?
I think if it's financially feasible for the family, I would recommend homeschooling. You know, there's a lot of parents out there, they're trying to go back to work again. A lot of parents have lost their jobs due to COVID-19. But a lot of students, you know, they got stuck in their home due to COVID-19 and they had to do virtual schooling. I've heard a lot of stories where the kids actually failed their classes due to virtual learning. So sometimes you kind of need that one-on-one interaction with your teacher. But what I do love is that the parents are actually combating the school boards. They're combating the superintendents. They're combating the principals. And that actually happened last night in Loudoun County in
Right, I
Virginia.
saw that.
Yeah, there was 200, this is sad though, 251 people signed up to speak about the critical race theory, but only 50 people got to speak about it.
Well, they said it was so crowded. It was so many
Right.
people. It was fight. 2 people were arrested.
Right.
And their pushback, and the pushback that a lot of the left and a lot of these schools are saying, is that there is no critical race theory. Even in Howard County, they're saying that this was something. Critical race theory is not on in the school board. It's not being pushed in these schools. So, what do you guys say to that? They're saying that we don't even have any. We're not pushing critical race theory.
It depends on the governors of the state and it depends on the school board. Like, for example, Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida, Governor Abbott in Texas, Governor Henry McMaster's in South Carolina. Those 3 governors, and even Governor Kristi Noem in South Dakota, those 3 governors have signed executive orders to ban critical race theory forever in their state, regardless of what Joe Biden puts out. So that's a governmental issue. But Governor Cuomo, Democratic governor, he's going to push critical race theory in his state. So it all has to do with the states and the governors of the state and the school board. And I believe that more Republicans should come out and should run in the school board. We need more Republicans in the school board.
Well, and I just want to add that it's true that children need that person-to-person interaction, and I have a tutoring company, and I've seen it like throughout the whole pandemic how important it was, and how kids are failing now, like how they were doing well in the beginning of 2020, and then by the end of the school year, they really slumped.
Wow.
And I mean, also, I understand that some people, it might be difficult to afford or, you know, have
A parent staying at home.
yeah, parents staying at home, but there's ways. I mean, people have done it where they hire somebody and they have a pod where they have multiple children from different families come together, and that's very affordable. And so what I'm saying is that take responsibility of education. Don't let the government educate your kids. We're gonna have this. This is what we're receiving, and then.
But I
But
think
what-
it goes farther.
Oh, well, I was going to say,
Yeah.
just we as conservatives, we always push critical race theory is wrong, and so I thoroughly believe that. What is the option? So if it's not critical race theory, then what is the option? Because some people do say that the educational system is not teaching history, is not teaching correctly
Right, I agree with
how
that.
things
I don't think
go.
they teach history correct at all.
They
I
don't.
think the way they teach history is something that perpetuates division after the kids learn that history lesson. They should be teaching it from a more world view. If you learn history in another country, you're going to learn it differently. You know, whereas in America, right, we teach history a particular way. But even like looking at things like, for example, I would guess that most Howard County schools, because I went to Howard County school, extremely liberal school. When Trump won, they were holding therapy sessions and like biology, like in every class, right?
Oh, wow.
It just is ridiculous, right? You're adult, like teach students to think for themselves and be able to vote again. Don't teach them to cry when the person they voted doesn't get
Right.
elected.
But the history
think-
is the history, and the problem is that these
But it's
teachers,
not taught.
it's not taught. They're putting their political bias into the classroom.
Yes.
And same thing with like the Holocaust and everything. Like, you know, you have to teach it as it was. You have to show it. You can't dispute the facts and you can't dispute the history. And I think if more parents, if they come, you know, like in Loudoun County, they all come together and they say, "This is wrong. I know what the history is. You're messing up the mind of my student. I'm going to pull them out." It puts pressure on the school board. It puts pressure for them to say, you know what, maybe we should like listen to the parents because it's going to be a huge problem. All these people are going to get fired.
I don't think it's realistic for everybody to get privately schooled or homeschooled. And I think public school, this is the thing that's so frustrating. Public schools are supposed to be there for diversity of thought.
Right.
They're supposed to be there so that kids can interact with other kids and disagree, right? And now it's like you're being taught one groupthink mentality. So I think conservatives need to go back into the boards of education. They need to, even like history books, the way history books are written, like they need to take over the history book, all of that.
Well, let me just, I was, if I could just respond to what you said. So what about that? Because we find that this critical race theory is being pushed in a lot of urban centers, cities across the country. Do Republicans have a voice in urban centers? Are we going out into these cities and trying to establish relationships with groups, or are we saying they're lost causes and there's no need to discuss?
It shouldn't be lost causes. And I agree that there is an opportunity for us to do something, and that we shouldn't just say no critical race theory and nothing to replace it. Because, I mean, apparently people are looking for something. You know, maybe there is a need. And going to public school here, I went to public schools since I came to America, and I have to say I didn't learn much in there. Like really, it was a waste of time. Like I gotta say, and later when I learned that I could have just left school and got a GED, like I should have done that. No, I wasted time, because later I learned things that I should have been learning in public school about in terms of racial issues, because I saw racial issues and I was like, I need to learn what's going on. So I read just like basic classics of like people like Booker T. Washington and Frederick Douglass, and in those things I was like, why was I not learning that in school?
Wow.
So what I'm saying is, yes, history should be revised. History is not being taught properly. There has to be a lot more, and we have to accept that there's some things that happened in our history that was not fair to certain groups of people, but then patriotism should still be part of the curriculum.
All right.
So
On that thought, we'll continue to follow this this topic. One comment. Go ahead there.
Okay, so Stephen says, you can teach history without claiming groups are victims and oppressors when we all have to be Americans. I agree with that.
All right. And what about the one here on the screen? Okay. All right. We have one more from Evie.
CRT deniers are saying that there's no CRT because
There are broad definitions of what CRT is, and that's on purpose.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. So we will continue to follow this subject, and we'll go on with your topic, Natasha.
So we're focusing on Victoria's Secret. Everybody knows Victoria's Secret. They sell wonderful bras, underwear, robes, bikinis, everything. They used to have beautiful models.
Yeah, right.
Now it's all changed. So we had something called Victoria's Secret Angels. And they were beautiful women, and they would have, the wings of the angels. Well, they just got rid of that recently. So they're getting rid of the word angels, and they're calling it the Victoria's Secret Collection.
Collective.
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 And what are they collecting?
Sounds like a
Right.
military
Exactly.
group.
So let's see what they're collecting.
Communists.
So instead of having, beautiful, diverse women from Brazil, like we had Giselle Bundchen, women from Germany, like Heidi Klum, Letitia Casta from France, Adriana Lima from Spain. We had Miranda Kerr. We had Tyra Banks. She was one of the first black Victoria's Secret women. Naomi Campbell, also one of the first black women Victoria's Secret model. Now we're having the soccer star, the famous soccer star, Megan Rapone.
And she doesn't even look like a woman.
Right, thank you. And, she's known as being very controversial. She wouldn't stand for the national anthem. She's a professional soccer player. She wouldn't sing the national anthem.
She doesn't even wear a bra.
Exactly.
I bet you. She doesn't wear a
She
bra.
wears a sports bra
Right.
or whatever. Something they don't sell at Victoria's
no
Secret.
Is she gonna be a
It makes no
model,
sense.
or-
Yeah.
She's like the main face. And
They
then
don't wear a bra.
right. So
I mean,
now
who
they're
wants
putting
to see her in
exactly.
underwear?
So now they're putting, of course, politics into Victoria's Secret. They're having a body advocate as one of the models, a mental wellness, because I guess you become mental, when you're wearing a bra and underwear. And then they have equality. They have an equality activist. Then they have an LGBTQ activist, a transgender model, as representatives of Victoria's Secret. So they go from something that is not political, that it's beautiful women that are showing off beautiful lingerie to kind of like entice your man or whoever you're with to these like political people. And it's terrible. And it kills the whole image. And again, it's that Me Too movement. You know, men are misogynistic now. You know, and it goes to the whole thing where, like, you know, a man can't even approach a woman now. There was a picture.
They wouldn't want to approach those women.
Yeah, they're making the underwear. They're putting pockets inside the underwear. Yeah, so
But
now
there
the
was a
men
picture
can wear it. They
recently of, like,
tuck
a
it into the
pregnant
pocket.
woman, you know, at a beach, bending down and proposing to her boyfriend. Like, that's not tradition. That's not what it's supposed to be. But a lot of this came from the former owner of Victoria's Secret. His name is Leslie Wexner, and the reason why he's kind of changed the image of Victoria's Secret collection is he himself was compromised. He hung out with Jeffrey Epstein, as we know all about Jeffrey Epstein, and he did a lot of business with him. The new chief, his name is Francis Hondel. He's the chief fan officer for the NBA, which of course has taken a huge liberal approach. And they said that Jeffrey Epstein used his connection to Victoria's Secret to service young women. And the result may have ruined Mr. Wexner's legacy.
So wait a minute. So because this man, when you say service, he was providing donations, or what do you mean service?
Yeah, like he was providing service to well, no, the young women, like because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile, so he was buying like sexy lingerie for these like 15-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds to be on the Lolita Express, Pedophilia Island. Yeah. So, and Wexner was kind of like a part of that. They said Wexner actually went to the island
and
with
he
Jeffrey
owned
Epstein.
Victoria's Secret.
He was one of the co-owners.
And
of
so
Victoria's Secret.
Leslie Wexner, he stepped down, right?
He stepped down, but he was compromised because of this, and it's very sad that something that that Victoria's Secret that was true to diversity and race, and they hired anyone who was Jewish, non-Jewish, black, whatever, is now being politicized, and it's very sad. It's changing the way of how a man looks at a woman now.
I think Victoria's Secret has been canceled. Essentially.
Oh yeah, nobody's gonna buy from them anymore.
It's been canceled. That's what happened. And actually, I looked in that in 2018 there was an interview with the chief marketing officer of L Brands, Ed Razek.
Yeah.
And there was a question to him like, would you have a transsexual model? And he said, no, we don't need that. And he was promoting this like natural women, like, and this is a fantasy world. That was the branding that he was promoting. And that immediately was picked up by the leftist media, like, Victoria's Secret is transphobic.
Right, exactly.
And so they've been pushing on Victoria's Secret for a while now. It was 2018. And then by 2019, Victoria's Secret hired the first transgender model.
Right.
And this person, Ed Razek, resigned.
Wow. What do you think about
Right, so I'm not, I think it's a lot. It's just a lot. So look, I'm not opposed to companies rebranding in general, right? At a high level, companies rebrand, they go after different markets, right? Like if Victoria's Secret was going after, hey, we want to go after different body types, different body shapes, like all of that. Okay, that makes a little more sense because people like to buy underwear based on like if they see a model that looks like them, they know it fits them, and they'll buy that way. But this is all politicized. So as soon as somebody is un-American, doesn't stand for the flag, that draws the line for me. Like I'm gonna have to find another brand now, The other thing that it's just really frustrating because, okay, are they going to they're pushing all of these people that are activists for different things. They're all liberal activists. Are they going to bring on conservative activists too? They can sign us up.
Yeah.
They can sign the four of us. Are they going to bring back Melania?
No.
Because, you know what I mean? So that's the thing. It's not diversity of thought. It's diversity of their political agenda. And that's the thing that I see.
Well, let me ask you this. So, and one thing you brought up about the body types. So, do we want to see that? Do we want to see, is that something that people are craving to see 300-pound women in their skivvies?
I mean, that's not even healthy. I mean, there are different body types. There's a healthy, I guess, margin. And I can see that, if people want to show a variety of body types, it doesn't have to go to that extreme.
Right, okay.
Well, the thing is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no.
Sorry. I was just going to say that, these women were thin, they were trim, you know, they worked out for many, many years, and nobody criticized them. Nobody said, why don't they have like a 300-pound model, you know, running down wearing underwear and bras? No, people like admire that. Now it's become this whole thing where, you know, you can't be skinny, you can't be fit to be a model anymore.
And it's one thing, there's a fashion show, but then, I mean, technically you can buy different sizes. Like, it's not like they didn't offer various sizes. It's just specifically for the fashion show, they had a specific look because that was their branding, and that's kind of, and looking at those models, they didn't seem emaciated to me.
No.
They were
I think there's
fit.
a fine line between body positivity and promoting obesity,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
Like,
Right,
I think there
Well,
is
there is a
line between
lady
that.
in the ad that we showed here, where she probably could take up the half of the couch. And so,
and I think, look, there's people that, I think to applaud somebody that's working towards a healthier lifestyle, if that's how they are now, that's one thing, but where do you go too far? My thing is, look, there are attractive people with more athletic figures. There are,
well, just like you said,
I'm not 5'8",
range,
right? So,
range.
you know, I think.
Neither am I.
Look, I think that a lot of the models were beautiful. I also think there were some that honestly were not that pretty in the face. So just with the makeup, it looked pretty. I think it did promote one particular, like, very tall, lean, not as full body type, and it's not a bad thing to expand that, but that's not what they're doing.
Well, we have a question
This is an
here.
activist movement.
Is the market demanding to see different body types?
Probably
so is
not.
that?
Well,
No,
I
don't think so.
I think it depends though, because different cultures like different things. We're a multicultural society, right? Latinos have a different woman preference than Americans. Well,
But are we
than, like,
demanding
you know,
to see 300-pound women in
I
their
don't think-
bra and panties?
I don't think
And
that-
thongs, actually. And thongs.
another
Well,
thing-
you, well, how are you
I don't
advertising
think
that?
that. I think that's different.
How
though.
are you advertising the thong if I cannot see it?
She's got an elephant stuck in the mailbox.
I think that should just be played on a loop.
Oh,
No, that's valuable. Look, what I'm saying is, like, if you take like a soccer player's figure, right? It's not necessarily the Victoria's Secret
right,
model
right.
figure,
No.
but people will still find that soccer player attractive, right? I don't care about promoting different body types. I don't like promoting politics over. They're not going after a
And
multi.
now it's-
No, they're not,
And
because
now-
where are the dwarfs?
Now it's called VS Collective,
Right.
which sounds very Marxist. And what
Sounds like a military unit.
And also what they're promoting, they're actually removing women, what they're doing. Like, that's what I've noticed was happening with this progressive agenda, is actually to erase women. We had the
Like
feminist
femininity.
movement in the past, and now I wonder how feminists think about this, where femininity is being erased. Now we have men entering sports that we know about, also now and modeling and promoting feminine clothing that women used to go for. This was supposed to be a feminine brand, and now we have women that don't really look like women and all this. So they're erasing gender.
Just to be fair, I do think that the fashion industry has always been a little extreme in that way. I mean, even throughout the years, like how men have dressed in the fashion industry, it is always typically a little more extreme. Just like in the fashion industry in general. Like, there's things that I'm like, how is this fashion? I don't understand it. You know what I mean? You know when you're looking through a magazine and you're just like, what am I looking at? I would never wear this.
Victoria's Secret was, I mean, that was generally like a fantasy,
like
but it was still
enticing,
still
lingerie.
attainable.
Exactly. My concern is, we're changing Victoria's Secret. Now I'm fearing that we're going to change Sports Illustrated. We're going to change Hooters.
Oh, they already changed
They
it.
are.
Yeah.
So it's
So you
starting to
should
become a
change
trend.
Hooters.
Well, I mean, there's a specific image that Hooters girls, look like in the restaurants. But that's going to change.
Well, is that okay though? I mean, as far as those images, because they're saying, the left is saying these images were not okay. So they probably will
But nobody
change.
else had a problem.
they're
Right,
doing
right,
it.
That's
no.
the thing.
They're
Now
doing
it's a
it
problem.
And it's
based
something
on
like
what
if
people believe in. They're not doing it based on body image. They're doing it based on people's ideologies.
Well,
and
they're
that's
trying to
my
make you believe
problem.
if you're skinny, if you're fit, if you have fake boobs, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. Well, we will continue to monitor and follow that story. You will not find us in VS Collective. So I guess we will go to Fredericks of Hollywood. Are they still open?
We have to find
Right.
to shop. We're gonna
Yeah.
have to shop somewhere else.
Yeah.
Go to
Yeah.
Selma
Yeah.
or by Chico's.
Right.
Can I just say really quick, the fact that they called all their old models like not culturally relevant anymore is kind of like,
Yeah.
it's kind of a slap in the face to them.
And like you
know?
said, they would have people from all
From
over
all
the
over
world.
the world.
We do have a question here. Do you see that?
Okay, I swear, I was really a fan of Victoria's Secret, but now I don't know how I feel about about this. Victoria's Secret is about sexy for women you are with. That's it, at least for me.
Okay. Yeah.
Coming from
Oh.
Chad.
Oh yeah, they definitely will lose a male audience. That's it. Like
Well, they
Yeah,
not
it's about
one
bringing
male, not
sexy
bio.
back, not
yeah.
pushing sexy away.
Right, right. It's something. I mean, now you do some if you don't even take about the trans, you do have some men who are wearing lingerie now too. So they may be trying to break into other markets. Who knows? All right. So with that, we will. That ends the show today. That was all of our topics. So let me just make sure I'm doing this right. Because we have a new format, guys. If you notice, I want to make sure I hit everything. So, yeah, that's everything for. And we also do have our pop flop. So we do want to let me show you all that. Our pop flop of the week. Take a look. Right. Vaccinate! 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 Vaccinate!
Oh my God. Yeah, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, they want to make sure 70% of the country gets vaccinated by July 4th.
Yeah, well, he said he's not going to make it.
happen.
Why
Yeah,
are
it's
they
not gonna-
combining, like, what does vaccination have to do with pride? Like, I don't
Right.
understand that at all.
Yeah.
It's just
Well,
more
I
political.
mean, this is
Yeah.
the kind of people that they're getting vaccinated.
Right.
That's what's
Right.
happening.
Well, it's because Dr.
I don't
Fauci
know.
couldn't
I
win
just
with
don't
the
get it.
HIV/AIDS vaccine with Bill Gates, so now he's pushing the COVID-19.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
say that again.
Oh, well, Dr. Fauci wasn't successful with the vaccine with HIV and AIDS with Bill Gates, so now he's like, let's push this vaccine instead.
Yeah, I mean that's was something
That was
that
like-
we were kind of touched on in one of the shows that
Right.
Fauci was behind the
The HIV.
HIV drug that was a failure, and so now he's behind this vaccine that's also. I don't know if you heard that now they're stopping. They're saying that men over 18 should not get.
Under
18 should
18.
not
Yeah,
get
men.
vaccinated because of the heart problems. So what about the boys that were already
And
vaccinated?
and on colleges,
regretting
some
it.
of them might
And
be.
I saw an ad, it was a tweet from Center City Public Schools in DC showing that they're vaccinating their students there.
Yeah,
Well,
they're-
they were doing it
they're
at my
trying to
son's
force it on.
private school too. It wasn't
At the
mandatory
universities.
though.
They're trying to make it mandatory at the universities.
So we will continue to follow that. I mean, again, personally, I think it's a personal decision, and it's something that each person would make depending on their
We need
physical.
to get all
health.
information in order
Right.
to make that decision.
Yeah, that's true. So, well, that wraps this episode of Pop and Politics. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe and like this video. That way you are always aware of the content that we are posting. If you're watching on Facebook, please share this video and like the Metro Conservative Media page. We appreciate your support and following us and keeping up to date with us. Also, comment on any comments on any topics you'd like us to cover. So if you're following a trending topic or a trending news story and you want to hear our take on that, please comment about that, and we will look into talking about that in our next show.
Maybe it'll be a pop flop.
So as far as events are concerned, we do have this Saturday, we have an event that is going on. Follow our Metro Conservative Media page. Also, you can find out on www.metroconservativemedia.com. We'll list any events on that page also. Any of you all have any events?
There is one Back the Blue event, actually this Saturday
Okay.
in Cecil County from noon to 3 o'clock, and then July 3rd they have the Heritage Day Parade in Dundalk, which is from 7 to 9:30 a.m.
Okay. And we are on Twitter. So if you guys are on Twitter, please check us out and follow us there at Be More Pop Stars. Again, that's Twitter, Be More Pop Stars, and get with us on there.
And really quick, one more thing.
Sure.
So there is a petition called Move On. They're working for a better Baltimore to essentially ask for the removal of certain office officials who are not doing anything. They're essentially neglecting their duties in Baltimore. So go on the website sign.moveon.org, check that out, and petition.
All right, and one other event, yes, this Saturday at 12:30 p.m., the Voice of the Citizens host a panel forum at the Indian Buffet. It's an ambassador dining room, so it is a event where they'll be discussing education, teachers, trauma experts, parents, all discussing education.
And the biggest question there is that the board of the education in Baltimore, so right now the people who are on the board of education in Baltimore, they're being selected or appointed. So they should be voted in by citizens. That's the panel is mostly about. But also basically about why we're having the problems in education in Baltimore and in the country in general.
Yep, so definitely go out. That event will be on our Metro Conservative Media page also, so you can find out more information, but it's right here in Baltimore. Make your voice count. And our very own Yana is a panelist, so it's going to be awesome. So please come out. We love to see you there. All right, so that is everything for tonight. Again, thank you so much for watching. Count your blessings and live a life of purpose. Good night.